Hi, friend. I am Jeremy Tank, and if you are watching this, I am your brand guy. So, hi. What does it mean that I am your brand guy? That means that I am a guy that you are watching and you can learn things about your brand and design and branding and learning the foundation of how to share the words and the pictures about who you are and what you do and why you matter to the world and sharing that. The kind of work that I do comes before marketing. It's understanding a foundation of things. And so, as part of that foundation, this week, I want to talk a little bit about design. And design has a couple of different meanings depending on who you are and how you approach things. For me, design is actually a thought process. Design is imagining what a final state of something should look like or feel like or sound like, and then sort of looking back at the beginning and breaking down steps and stages about how to create those feelings, how to create that experience. And there are some very common elements in design in general, and I'm just going to state it. I came from fine art into graphic design. I went from a fine art high school where I studied this stuff really intensely into design school, and I got my bachelor's degree in design, just reinforcing the elements that fine art school used. And those elements, for your knowledge, these are going to be today's lesson, are line, shape, form, color, texture, value, space. Line, shape, form, color, texture, value, space. Line, shape, form, color, texture, value, space. Yes, I say it quickly. Yes, I say it fast because that's how I memorized it in high school for the tests. You remember when you used to say things really quickly over and over and over again because you knew it would be important on the test? And if you could just get that pattern, get that neuro connection down enough by saying it fast enough repeatedly that it would stick, well, line, shape, form, color, texture, value, space. That's where it is for me, which really helped me when it came to design school because I understood pretty quickly the elements I had to play with. So, just so you understand the whole reason for this, line, shape, form, color, texture, value, space, is because these are the things you get to play with, sharing your message visually, not just visually. These actually apply auditorily, experientially. I'm sure we can actually see how this applies to taste. Your senses pick up all of these different signals from the environment around you, and your senses, your body encodes those into your brain. So when you learn one element of design, you can actually start to trace it across different aspects of your cognitive spectrum, across your experience spectrum. So let's go ahead and start with the first one, line. And actually, let's break that down. A line is, if you look at, and I'm standing in this spot in particular so you can see this. Let me see here. This right here is a line. Now, you know that this is the corner of the room, and then it's going down here and then over to here in this video, but when you see it flat like this, two-dimensional like through this is a line. Now, the way you can use this, and the way that I'm using it in particular, is this is a leading line. It goes right to my head, right to my eyes, and this one too, if I kind of position myself right, goes right like this. It creates a little bit of an arrow. And actually, it creates a shape, line, shape. When you add multiple lines together, you create a shape. So this space right here creates a shape. And really, what I'm going for by shooting this video like this is this arrow shape right here that points right down into me and causes you to look back at me. That is utilizing my space that I'm in, three-dimensional space, to show a two-dimensional space that creates an effect that draws your eye downward. This is how designers think. This is how artists think when we're looking at the spaces, looking at the images that is presented, looking at the effects of things that are presented, and we are utilizing it to our own best ability to convey who we are and how we see life, right? I mean, that's what you do every single day in your job. You work with your coworkers, and you want them to see you in the best possible light so that they like working with you. We're using the same sorts of elements in different ways. In those cases where you're working with coworkers or you're working with employees, you can utilize different effects to help guide the message and guide what you're trying to do and say. So I'll get to that in a little bit more in a minute. So we got lines, we got shapes, we got forms. I am a form. I'm going to get those pictures out of the background. I am a form. Three-dimensionality has a form. You can kind of see the ceiling has a form because there's a grade in value. So it gets darker up here, it's lighter over here. My window is that way, so all the light comes in and it's slightly darker where the light doesn't quite get to, where it bounces around. So we've got lines, shapes. Shapes are two-dimensional, and forms. Forms have a gradation that makes them look three-dimensional. So between line, shapes, and forms, you have graphic elements that create artwork, that create interface, that create division and separation. So line, shape, form, color. Color is the next one. And the element of color, see, I am mostly kind of brownish, blondish. I've got a green shirt on today that I decided to punctuate what I'm saying because I know it goes with my eyes and it goes with my hair and it ties that all together. And I put this all in the contrast because I tell you guys all, I've told you guys quite a bit, the brain, one of the fundamental functions of the brain is comparing and contrasting. So when your brain sees this picture of me, first of all, these lines, this shape, points your eye right down towards me, through me, it anchors it with the green shirt and actually bounces the eye back up. This is actually the function of design in branding and in working with your brand, is you're utilizing these elements to create the experience that draws the person into whatever it is you are sharing. So in this case, I'm using the wall, I'm using the gradation darker up here, lighter down here, which pulls the eye down into where I am. I'm using the color of my shirt, which I know tends to resonate with my eye color and my beard and my hair, to kind of it's also really a lot of color down at the bottom. So these arrows around me draw you right down to this large swatch of color and then bounce back up into my face. And that is utilizing color as an anchor to bounce back up and reflect back into all of this stuff and control what you're looking at and how you're looking at it and how you're perceiving it, really. Line, shape, form, color, texture. Okay. So texture is a funny one because we recognize texture in so many different areas in the brain, like how we perceive texture. In this case, you can kind of see the rough cotton shirt. You cannot really see the texture in my ceiling. You can definitely taste texture when you do, the difference between a steak versus sashimi, right? Salmon, sushi. There's a different flavor texture. You can hear texture in sound when there is, let's say, heavy metal versus the noise, the background noise of a sporting event, or what sporting events used to be. I ended up watching a bit of a soccer game, a football game this weekend, and I looked in the stands on the television, and there's nobody there, and I just thought, without the texture of the noise going on in the background, I wonder how these players feel. Do they feel supported? Do they feel energized without people yelling and screaming, particularly for football? Do they get that? That texture of the background of sound means a lot to them. And up here in Seattle, they love their football, actual football, American football. They love screaming, yelling, and being super loud because that creates a background. It energizes the stadium. It energizes the players. So I actually think that in a lot of contexts, the background noise in these sporting events is really important to the players. If they don't hear it, it's going to affect how they perform and when they win. That's my opinion. I'd actually like to talk to one of these players and find out if that's the truth. But that's texture in sound. And texture and sound can sound like different genres of music and different ways that sounds come forward or recede. Again, your brain, I love texture in music. I love texture in sound because it combines a couple different things that the brain is doing. It is perceiving the sounds, it is distinguishing the sounds, it is layering the sounds, but it also is a constant comparison and contrast in the brain to recognize time. It is literally saying, in this split second, there's all of this sound, and I'm separating it, I'm distinguishing it, and I am also comparing it to every second before and every second that comes next. I'm constantly comparing to beforehand, and that constant comparison in the brain creates music, creates rhythm, creates or the perception of rhythm, the perception of music, the perception of time even is just based in these constant comparisons of what's going on. Now, a texture in in the visual field, like this sort of thing, hi, you can see that my beard and my shirt are not the same texture. And you're looking at a two-dimensional image of me versus the three-dimensional images of me. So really what that comes down to is a combination of lines in my beard maybe that are different colors stacked up in space across my form that shows you that there is a distinct difference in texture. So it's just visual play. It's a visual trick. It may or may not be there when you're looking at it on a phone or on a computer, but this visual trick actually draws you in and helps you know what the surface is, what it should feel like, what it should taste like, even in some senses, what it should sound like. That is the power of texture. It is magnificent and marvelous because it gives you a hint at the reality within, even though you are not directly experiencing that reality, that texture, or touching it. It's really a magnificent trick of the brain and light and senses. Line, shape, form, color, texture, value. Okay, so value is sort of what we talked about here. Value is a change, a gradation, a change of color, a lightness and darkness, a perception of closeness and distance. Our brain puts together distance and perception and priority and focus based on a lot of value and based on the contrasts in value. And they have this great not really experiment, but test picture where there's a chess piece in back of a chessboard and a chess piece in the front, and they show you the colors on the chessboard. And the thing is that several of the colors are the same colors between the lightest points and the darkest darks. And what creates the dimension, what creates the value, what creates the interesting perception in the brain is the contrast around each of those colors. When we take out I'm going to have to find a visual of this and put it online. If you're interested in me putting this online and showing you in the visual, just make a note down below. Just say, yeah, I totally want to see that picture. Because the brain judges value based on the values around that value. And we can show that two different values... No, I can show that one value looks like two different values, and it's really just how it's perceived. Like this up here on the wall and this, if I look at that, those are the same value to me because when I turn around, this is in my house, this light coming across, but on screen I can see that this gray and this gray are not equal, but maybe this gray down here and this gray are equal. And we can't see that until we separate it because our minds create this funky little reality that doesn't actually exist of all these colors changing. Now we can use that when we're building a brand, when we're building design, when we're doing anything sharing to show that the relative lightness, darkness, seriousness, funniness, it can be the same, but it's not going to be felt unless you contrast it with something else next to it. Everything that we perceive is really based on the stuff around it and the contrast and the quick judgment of the brain to determine what that actually is. And we form this picture in our head and we go with it even though it may or may not actually be the truth in actual reality. So, line, shape, form, color, texture, value, space. So, I'm sitting in a white space right now. That white space, the contrast between my skin and that background color helps you focus on me. Space can also be known as white space, empty space, potential space, kinetic space. There's lots of different types of space, and space is just the area around my head or the area within the green. It is defining a thing or a no thing, and space is named that mostly because humans are weird and we gotta find names for things that don't really need names. Like, if there's a painting of the sky, you've got the ground and a tree and a mountain, and what's the stuff up above? Oh, that's sky. Okay, well, we'll just call it space because we're not gonna put anything there. It's just saying it's waiting to become something. It has potential. And when you're looking at design, when you're looking at your logos, when you're looking at websites, space helps you focus on what is important. And the reason for that, a lot of people think, when I was doing a lot more graphic design work for the ad agency, it was always make everything bold, make it bolder, make it bigger and bolder, make everything big and bold. But the problem is when you make everything big and bold, you take up less, or you allow for less space. Everything bigger and bolder, a logo bigger, headline bigger, all the text bigger. It sounds like it's a great idea, but what actually happens is the opposite. You pay less attention to the words, you pay less attention to the text. People can follow it much less likely because space allows the contrast that needs to happen in the brain, in the neural connections, to see the difference between the focus point and not the focus point. So adding space in, adding white space, adding allowances around allows you to focus on the things that are important. Making things less important actually allows the stuff that is super important to stand out even more because it requires the contrast. In fact, in almost all of the cases of these elements that I've shared with you, line, shape, form, color, texture, value, space, all of them function best when you utilize the idea of comparing and contrast that you know is going to happen in the brain. That's how we perceive things. So if we know that's going to happen, use the tools to help direct the viewer, the reader, the whatever, to help them direct their next steps, their next actions, or tell the story visually of whatever you're trying to do. So if you are looking at line, how would you have contrast in lines? Well, you can make some shorter, you can make some longer, you can make some dotted, you can make some dashed. You could vary the width, some being really thick lines, some being really thin lines. Shapes, circles, squares, triangles, hexagons, just varying shapes creates different feelings. And round shapes create soft feelings, create feelings of empathy and compassion. Hard shapes, flat shapes, square shapes, rectangular shapes, these are harsh. They create a push, a feel of urgency and a demand. So varying these shapes and how you use them and where you use them helps you portray your brand, your branding, your feel better because it gets across a deeper feeling in that stuff. Sort of like color. If you have warm colors and cool colors, blues, purples are generally considered cool. Greens are generally considered cool. Definitely blues are very cool colors. It's things that make you feel calm, like the ocean and water, that sort of thing. Warm colors are like magenta, red, yellow, orange, sometimes violet, and red. These are impassioned things. They're things that cause you to take action. A red stop sign, a red stoplight draws your attention because it guides it and says, whoa! And that's the sort of thing color does. But you would not know that if you didn't know that green, the cool green, the action green, the growth green, the lively green tells you to go. And green and red are actually complementary colors, meaning they are opposite on the color wheel. So they're even the furthest apart they can be in terms of recognition and use, so that that creates a high level of contrast and understanding in the brain to draw these things. And all of the understandings of society, red, green, orange, we have these complicated emotional ties to these colors, to shapes, to everything that are tools. Line, shape, form, color, texture, value, space. These are your tools to use to reach out to people and to showcase who you are, because these are visually, auditory, they're sensory tools. I can't get that quite enough, that I learned them because of fine art, and then I got them in graphic design, in the ad agency. But the more I learned about the brain, the more I learned about cognition and neuroscience and behavioral science, the more I realized that we can apply this to experience design. We can apply this to music design. We can apply this all across the board to user design, customer experience design, right? How do you make a button that makes people want to press it? That would be part of behavioral website design, user interface design. Is a red button more effective than a gray button? I don't know. But a lot of people do, and it changes based on the users, based on viewers, based on the website, based on the layouts. So these tools are not written in stone, and that's part of the hard part of where we are right now with you building your business or you getting out and trying to build a brand, is that a lot of these tools are there to play with. And when you get to a point of being able to play with them and finding experts that you can design your website and start testing these things, you will start to realize that small tweaks, small changes, utilizing these tools, line, shape, form, color, texture, value, space, these are the tools that with small changes can make huge impressions and huge differences in how people see your brand, feel your brand, and work with your brand. So that's the elements of design today, elements of visual design, although I'm telling you it goes way beyond visual design. Line, shape, form, color, texture, value, space. These are the things that you use to create impressions, feelings, emotions, draw people in when they don't even see you, or maybe it's just a flat video like this. I'm utilizing the elements like this to be able to showcase them to you. So again, this week we're just going to be talking a little bit about design, because I realized that to understand your brand and understand your branding and start talking with the experts who help you build these things, when you build your team of people to help you build this stuff, I hope I'm on your team, but if I'm not, you need to speak intelligently to graphic designers, to web designers, to a logo designer. If you don't know some of these things, then it will hurt you. So we're just going to start off this week and talk about graphic design. And, if you're ready to go, if you are like, look, I want a logo, I want to jump in on my brand, I want to jump in on my business, I want to get this, let's work on it right now. I have my program, Manifest Design, and it is an 8-session program, figuring out the words that matter for your business, your brand, and figuring out how to translate and use those words with your specific audience. Each of the 8 steps are working through your vision, your customers, your brand, your competition, trying to identifying a unique selling point, a USP, something that's unique about you that really helps you stand out from everybody else. So if you're interested in this program, if you want to talk a little bit more about it with me, just comment Manifest Design down in the comments, and I will love to reach out to you and share with you a little bit, and we can figure out if it's right for you, if you are at the right stage of your business to do this sort of thing. And if you are and you do Manifest Design, I would love to take the next step, which is a logo design, branding design for you to help you understand the path forward for yourself. This is the stuff that I am super passionate about. So, I talk real fast, and I hope you're just enjoying staying with me and my goofiness, because that's kind of who I am. And I'm here for you. So if you have questions, if you have comments about branding, about your brand, about design, about how this stuff comes out and affects the brain, and how it affects your customers and their brains, and how to get everybody on board the same page, using branding, using brand. This is the foundation of stuff that goes into your marketing, into your company structure as you grow, into your team structure, things that unite people, things that draw it all together. There is an infinite way to showcase your brand and who you are and what makes you special and what is your why you are so impactful for the world, because I know you are making a difference every single day, just waking up, participating in the world, smiling at other people, thanking them, sharing your energy. You are a magnificent person, and you should go out and get it. And I want to help you go out and get it, and I want to give you all the tools that I know from my experience, from my life, to help you do all the things you want to do. Because I think that sharing this stuff is important, and that you are absolutely worth it. Thank you so much for sticking with me today. Thank you so much for watching all of this. Again, if you're interested in the stuff that I do, you can always comment down below, Manifest Design, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. All right, take care. Bye.